Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. I'm Wes Selby.
And I am Noah Selby.
And we are coming off a wild week 2 where teams played completely different in one half compared to the second half. Teams came back after some wild deficits, some pretty big blowouts from last night's game. We got a lot to talk about. First things first, Noah, how you feeling? How you doing?
I'm feeling fantastic. Some might even say I'm feeling too-orific. Oh, man, what a beautiful week it was.
Woo!
For Miami Dolphins fans. We made it, baby.
Oh, my gosh.
The Tua coming out show was incredible this week. And, yeah, he had a better second half than most quarterbacks had the entire game this week. And so that was unbelievable. I'm floored. I'm thrilled. I'm so excited. Wes, how you doing?
I echo your energy and your emotions. This is it. This is the guy we've been defending as Dolphins fans for a long time. I can't wait to talk about him when it comes to fantasy because he is also pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wowee.
I'm looking forward to it. Hey, it's Tuesday. You know what that means? We've got a 5-star review of the week. We're going to share a wonderful review from someone. Noah, let's hear this wonderful review.
Let's do it. This review says, as a fantasy football rookie, I am loving the insight and strategy this podcast gives. Noah and Wes have great chemistry and are the perfect duo for hosting a fantasy football podcast. These guys are well-versed and passionate about fantasy football. What else could you ask for? That review comes from user Ren ____, 3 underscores there, and 3 cheers for you, Ren.
Thank you.
Here.
Best of luck to your first time with fantasy football. I'm glad that you are taking a shot with our advice. What else could you ask for? I can name a lot of players that I could ask a lot more from right now.
Yeah,
we'll get into that soon.
My goodness.
Thank you so much for the review. Hey, if you would like a shout out next time, leave a 5-star review and write something funny. Catch our attention. We love to give you a shout out. We love to give some recognition to our fans. Thank you so much for all the support as always. I know we're only to week 2, but it's been so great, so overwhelming. And we have a great show for you today. We're going to recap this bizarre week 2. Starting off, we're going to be celebrating some of the players that have us feeling hyped up and talk about some of the superstars that have us feeling let down. We'll also look at the surprising stats from a few players and determine if they are FLUKE for real. Now that we've got 2 weeks under our belt, it's time to consider shopping for some players. So perhaps we'll sell some guys that are doing pretty hot and maybe buy some players that are not doing too well right now, but maybe they're going to do pretty good later on. We'll also share our waiver wire ads of the week before capping off the show with a Thursday night preview and tell you who the must starts, risky starts, and don't starts are. First things first, let's hear the NFL news heading into week 3. Noah, what's going on?
Heading into week 3, we are dealing with some injuries and probably the most significant in the fantasy football world. One that I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed about is Trey Lance. He is going to be out for the rest of the season. It's supposed to be Trey Lance season. It was going to be a big season for him and big, welcome to the NFL, big breakout potential there. Sadly, got 2 drives into the game this past week against the Seattle Seahawks and suffered a season-ending ankle injury. He broke and dislocated his ankle, which I both sound painful. I can't imagine both happening at the same time. But that surprising move that we were all, kind of caught us all by surprise. Jimmy G staying in San Francisco, he is going to reclaim that QB1 role. And so we are going to see what happens. He played fairly well in the game that he played on Sunday. And he led the team to a victory. And so we'll see what happens there. It's going to be interesting for a lot of those San Francisco skill players, see where their kind of upside shifts to as far as fantasy football goes. Up next, out in the desert, James Conner suffered an ankle injury and did leave the game. However, it's not considered very serious. If he were to miss time, Darrell Williams was the next man up on Sunday and should be viewed that way if Conner is going to miss time. Again, we'll see throughout the week where things kind of progress to. Connor did stay in uniform and on the sideline for the rest of the game. He did just not come back into the game. So it wasn't something that he left the field for or anything like that. Went back to the locker room, didn't do anything. He just stayed on the field, but he did not play the rest of the game. Another injury here. Jerry Judy went out with a rib injury on Sunday, and his status for week 3 is already in question. He is considered day to day. I know Russell Wilson likes targeting Jerry Judy, and so it is going to be interesting seeing what is going to happen. I thought by now I'd be feeling a little better after 2 weeks of the Denver Broncos facing up against the Seattle Seahawks and the Houston Texans. I don't.
Yeah, I've got some concerns.
I've got some concerns. It's a little scary. I'm not sure if it's a coaching situation, if it's just a rapport thing, but I'm a little concerned. So we'll definitely want to monitor Jerry Judy. I know Russell Wilson probably would enjoy having him back out on the field next week. Dalton Schultz injured his right knee on Sunday and was feared to have an ACL tear, but it seems like he's going to be good to go. Not sure exactly if he'll be ready for next week. What I did see today was that there was some PCL damage that had happened. But Schultz did stay on the field. He didn't come back into the game, or he stayed on the sideline, but he didn't come back into the game. And just after he was down on the field, he was seen, practicing some blocking against a fellow teammate on the sideline. May not be good to go next week against the Giants, but he will be playing soon. Another injury, and the last one we'll talk about here. J.K. Dobbins is still considered week to week. And apparently there's no timetable on his return. I think we all kind of thought he might be back, maybe even just for the start of the season, maybe for week 2. We're not even sure if he's not going to be brought back for week 3. As far as I'm concerned, the only rusher to have on your team from the Baltimore Ravens is going to be Lamar Jackson right now. So
yeah,
if you did draft J.K. Dobbins, you're going to need to stash him for a little while longer if you are believing in that. And then the last piece of news, Mike Evans is facing a 1-game suspension after his scuffle with Marshawn Lattimore. He is thought to be appealing the suspension, which I think he actually may have a decent chance at getting it appealed and not actually missing any time. That is all we have right now for the news of week 2. Let us dive into week 2 and go into some exciting things, Wes. Let's talk about it. We teased it in the intro, man, but my goodness, what a show the Miami Dolphins put on the second half, man. That was unbelievable.
You gotta be kidding me. I've never seen a team do that in the second half. Like, it was 35-14 in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
How do the Ravens lose that game? One, I guess the answer is Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are better than your defenders. I guess that's the answer.
Yeah.
But all three of them, Tua, Tyreek, and Waddle, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, is this legitimately what the Dolphins fantasy upside is going to be? They're going to play the Bills next week. And if they even do anything like this, if they were remotely like this, I mean, you kind of have to, do you lock in Tua as your starter? I mean, what do we do?
I don't know if we lock in Tua. I think we definitely lock in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think they're both, you got to lock them for the rest of the season. I mean, Jalen Waddle, 19 targets. 19 ridiculous. Targets on Sunday.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill with 13 targets. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous. Both of them, Waddle with 19 targets, Tyreek with 13 targets, both of them with 11 catches. Jalen Waddle, 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both of his touchdowns, by the way, were 45 plus yards. So anyone saying Tua's got a noodle arm can, I don't know, whatever. I mean,
it's actually a good point,
kind of ridiculous.
Though. It's a good point to bring up, not just because it's like trying to defend Tua, but like, for Tyreek Hill owners to know that like what Mahomes was known for with Tyreek Hill, it looks like you've got the same situation with Tua. I mean, this was an incredible game, but like both of these touchdowns that Hill caught were bombs. So I think you're going to be okay. And we also saw Jalen Waddle catch and run for 62 yards from a slant route. So this is, you've got, wow, this Dolphins team, man, this fantasy upside is ridiculous. ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Both the touchdowns to Tyreek Hill. I've seen Patrick Mahomes throw the exact same ball to Tyreek Hill on many occasions. Anyone wanting to say, well, they were underthrown and stuff like that, I've seen Patrick Mahomes' touchdowns to Tyreek Hill go exactly the same way. Week 3 against Philadelphia last year, when Tyreek Hill popped off, went crazy, had like 3 touchdowns. One of his touchdowns, he literally like stood still and turned around to catch the ball and then kept on running. I don't know if it's an underthrow thing or if it's we need to figure out how to really estimate this guy's speed. I don't know what it is, but I don't care. We're throwing bombs and scoring in Miami, and it's awesome. It's
the result
so cool
is basically 40 points from all 3 of them.
Yeah, we have 38.9 from Tua, 42 points from Tyreek Hill, 40.1 from Jalen Waddle. I mean, if you were we don't get too much into like best ball here in this podcast or anything like that, just because we're still learning everything. Best ball is something that has intrigued me in the past, and a conversation Wes and I both have had. But in best ball, I know a lot of people believe in like these stacks because you take, it's a big draft, you have a long bench, it's essentially you take there's no starting lineup. You take the best score from all your players or whatever and build it into a lineup, and it's your best possible lineup. It's your optimized lineup there. Man, if people were stacking up Tyreek Hill and Tua or Jalen Waddle and Tua, I mean, I think you won your weeks this week because holy crap.
Absolutely. And I'm someone that actually did start Tua and Jalen Waddle in 2 leagues.
Yeah.
And I won them both, to say the least. So yeah, I did.
Yeah, nice. Let's go to the other side of that field, though. Lamar Jackson was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I cannot believe, how that game played out, but 42.6 fantasy points. He went 21 for 29 for 318 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then his most electric play of the game was a 79-yard rushing touchdown, literally on like a QB draw.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't even break it outside. It was like just kind of hole opened up in the middle, and he just booked it and was like a bolt of lightning. He was awesome on Sunday. Like I said, 42.6 fantasy points. His teammate Mark Andrews and his teammate Rashad Bateman both above the 20-point mark there as well. Rashad Bateman wasn't my guy. It's awesome to see him get out here and have this kind of like, a big, like, put some people on notice kind of game. And a little disappointing, to be honest, as a Dolphins fan, watching him kind of, burn Xavier Howard there on his long touchdown. But really awesome to see Rashad Bateman do well.
Yeah, great to see 2 Ravens pass catchers have over 100 yards, though.
Right, exactly.
That's exciting for Lamar Jackson owners to see that he can really throw it.
100%. 100%. Another little stack that we'll talk about here just came from Monday Night Football, Wes. Holy crap. I mean, listen, I've got, I think maybe an apology to make. I don't know.
That's fair.
My smack that for this year, man, was Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And I said, guys, it's not worth it for the price you have to pay. And
is it?
And guys, I think if you did it, kudos, because holy crap, guys, this team is awesome. This team is so fun to watch play football. Stephon Diggs, 44.8 fantasy points in 3 quarters. He didn't even play the fourth quarter. 14 targets, 12 catches, 148 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I will note, Gabe Davis didn't play this game. So if he was there, this may not have been the same stat line. I think Diggs was just, Allen's go-to. And I think he still is,
dude.
I think he still is, man. And so, I mean, if you stack those guys up, they got you nearly 80 points in fantasy altogether. And that's
you want to hear a fantastic stat from last night's game with the Bills and Titans. Stephon Diggs had 148 yards receiving. The Titans had 123 yards receiving.
Oh, man.
That's all they had combined.
Sound the alarm on this Titans team, man. I don't know what's going on.
Jaguars
are going South. I don't know, man.
Yeah, Jaguars honestly may be the best team in the AFC South, but like we'll get to Derrick Henry in a little bit, but it's this. I wonder how much AJ Brown really did contribute despite him not being a fantasy factor last year.
Yeah.
Without a superstar wide receiver weapon to help draw coverage and get Derrick Henry some space, I wonder if this is going to be more often than not, Derrick Henry's getting a single point, low scoring game.
I think it could be. Let's talk about real quick one of the brightest spots of Sunday.
Oh,
and
yeah.
How awesome is it to watch Amon-Ra St. Brown play football?
Okay, this is going to be way too early to verify.
Do it.
Okay. I want to say it's not as dramatic, but I'm going to say two things. One, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown right now is probably the best player the Lions have had since Calvin Johnson. I think he can be that at least. I think with the way this guy is playing, he also rushed the ball for 68 yards twice. 2 rushes, 68 yards. But I think, and here's what I'm going to say, mark my words, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be a second-round pick next year in fantasy.
I think you're probably right. He is doing everything for this offense, man. 12 targets, 9 catches, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like you said, 2 rushes for 68 yards, 39.4 fantasy points. My goodness. Like it was
unbelievable.
He is. And I mean, we said it last week. We were talking about it on FLUKE or for real. We both said, I think it's for real. I think he's good. It's for real, dude. It's for 100%. Real. And man, like last year for me, it was Jonathan Taylor. It was a guy that for me, I wasn't high on. And it was a guy that I got proved wrong on, and I humbled myself on that. I had to, I got humbled pretty quickly with Jonathan Taylor last year. This year, it's looking like it's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown because I was staying away from him in so many drafts.
Wow.
I was just not on board. I thought, when he popped off last season, it was when DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson were out. I don't think he's going to keep doing it again. Dude, he's doing it, and it's sick.
It's incredible. I am a fan. Hey, let's also, just quick shout out to Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Tossing 4 tutties. Tua, that Dolphins-Ravens game took over the fantasy world, but hey, freaking Jared Goff just threw 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be just fine. If that's the kind of passing performance Goff is going to have, this guy should be your starter.
Yeah. And people can say, it was against the Commanders defense. They're not very good. They did it against the Eagles defense. He did this against the Eagles defense last week that just locked up Justin Jefferson. So
dominated the Vikings.
Yeah. And so I'm buying in, man. If he's definitely gonna, if he was somebody you wanted to trade for, it's gonna come at a hefty price, but it might be worth it if you're making moves. Just a couple other guys here, Wes. Amari Cooper surprised a lot of people, I think.
We called him Fluke. We'll admit that. We called it Fluke.
Yeah. I'm
sorry. Yeah, fluky. Just that I didn't see this happening, but I did hear something during that game is that Jacoby Brissett admitted to Amari Cooper after week 1 against Carolina that he said, I didn't realize how open you were the entire game. He says he's looked back at the tape and was like, dude, you are open. My bad. And then he, gave him 10 targets. Yeah. Over 100 yards receiving. It's possible Amari Cooper actually continues to do this. I'm still not sold as Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback.
But I think he's got it. I think it's going to be an up and down a lot with Amari Cooper just because of the quarterback situation, because of, probably what this team's going to have to end up doing is going to be running the ball because that's probably their strongest suit.
Speaking of which.
But let me tie a bow on this. Amari Cooper, 25 fantasy points this week. If you had him and you put him in your lineup, congratulations. It was great. Speaking of which, though, I'm going to say it. I called my shot on Nick Chubb, man. And I hope you guys listened because, boy, was he good. Dude, he was very good on Sunday.
And it's funny because, of course, people started Nick Chubb, but I think it was just emphasizing that the projections should be higher for him because he was projected about 17 points. And it was like,
he was projected 15.
Oh, 15?
14.
Oh, that's right. It was 14.
14.9 fantasy points. And it's like, no, he cleared that without scoring in week 1. Like, he cleared that without scoring. Like, give the man his chances. He's going to get it. He also had more of a role in the passing game than Kareem Hunt did this week. So,
yeah, what I learned about these two running backs is that Kareem Hunt is going to be boom or bust. There's going to be more of a concern if Kareem Hunt is going to do this each week. I think if you believe in Kareem Hunt, kind of like Mike Williams, I think you just kind of have to start him because he has that super big ceiling. But Nick Chubb, regardless of how many touchdowns Kareem Hunt vultures, Nick Chubb is still the guy, and Nick Chubb owners do not need to worry about Kareem Hunt because if your floor is 15 points, forget about it.
Yeah, no, it was awesome watching Nick Chubb. I mean, he scored 3 touchdowns, 87 yards on 17 carries. His third touchdown may have cost the Browns the game, but I'm sure it made fantasy players very happy. I mean,
yeah, we don't care.
Yeah, a lot of people will talk about, oh, why did you kneel down? I needed him to score the touchdown. I needed the fantasy points. That's why they kneel down, because if he had slid and stayed in bounds, the Browns could have kneeled that game out and won the game. Instead, they got 14 points dunked on their head in the last 2 minutes of the game and
crazy finish
and lost. And that was just unbelievable. Another guy I'll just want to highlight real quick. Another guy I hope you listen to us about, because Curtis Samuel, he is locked. He's locked into lineups. Like, unless he gives me 3 bad weeks in a row, I can't justify taking him out of my lineup now at this point. The opportunities he's getting are fantastic. He had 10 opportunities. They're manufacturing touches for the man. He only had 1 rush this week, but his 1 rush for 21 yards, 9 targets, 7 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown, 22.9 fantasy points. I hope you listened and picked him up because he was a top priority on the show for Waiver Add. And I can't take him out of my lineup now.
I love that you called it. He's so locked in. And just to emphasize that point is that Antonio Gibson had 28 yards rushing on 14 carries.
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel had 1 rush for 21 yards. So this guy to me is, I think you may have captioned it in some post, but he's the Deebo Samuel of Washington.
It might be the last name, man. It's the Samuels. I don't know what it is, but
it's the Samuels.
It's the Samuels.
I love it.
Yeah. Curtis Samuel is looking like he's playing a little bit of a Deebo Samuel role for this Washington Commanders offense. That it's awesome. Wes, anyone else you want to touch on that just hyped you up this week for week 2?
Yeah. Just for anyone who was worried about Aaron Jones in week 1, I hope you feel fine now. Okay. Clearly Aaron Jones is the guy. He's fine. Aaron Rodgers did okay, but Aaron Rodgers is a very sensitive quarterback, and he's only going to give it to guys that he trusts. And I think clearly he trusts Aaron Jones.
He does.
So good to go. 32 points.
Yeah. And here's the thing is that backfield is still pretty well split up. AJ Dillon had more carries than Aaron Jones did. Didn't make as much of them as Aaron Jones did, but both these, if you're an AJ Dillon owner, don't worry about the poor week. They're both getting equal workload. They'll both get theirs and they'll both be good. If you have Dillon, I think he's at least worthy of a flex spot in your team.
Absolutely keep AJ Dillon because he was on the field 57% of snaps.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones was on the field 59% of snaps. So they were both on the field at times.
Yeah, they were both out there at times. I saw AJ Dillon in the backfield. I saw Aaron Jones line up in the slot. They're both going to be very good for your fantasy team. Keep them out there. Anybody else, Wes, you want to touch on?
Not for the hyped up. I'm hyped up. Let's not stay feeling good for too long.
Yeah, let's talk
about the guys that got us let down.
Yeah, let's get sad, man. Jonathan Taylor made a lot of people sad.
Dude, what a surprising game, first of all.
Yeah, are the Colts bad?
That's a dangerous question. because you may be right.
Some people had them predicting that we're going to win the division.
Easily. People thought they were going to win.
And they haven't won a game yet. And they've only lost one game.
Yeah.
They tied a game. Like, I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah. I mean, strong finish in week 1 to at least get out of that deficit, but like to put a goose egg up and like
24-0.
Looking at just the fantasy aspect for Jonathan Taylor, he had 31 carries last week in week 1. He had 31 carries. This time only 9 carries. And I get it's the game script. I get when you're down by a lot of scores, you have to pass a lot, but like Michael Pittman was out.
Pass it to him.
Yeah. He had one target.
Taylor.
He had one target on Sunday.
Yeah. Hey, Frank Reich, wheel routes exist. Like, that's a thing. Or screen passes. Jonathan Taylor's one of the most electric players in the league. Put the football in his hands. Like, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand what happened there. He definitely let some people down this week. Another guy who let people down was, a guy who had an insane target share last week, Devonte Adams.
Man,
your week, if you're an Adams owner, your week got saved because he scored a touchdown, but just 2 catches on 12 yards for 12 yards on 7 targets. And let me be the first to say this Cardinals defense isn't like good. Like Mahomes concerning. Just threw like 5 touchdowns on them.
I think you're fine. So, I don't think Adams owners should be worried, but like that is a head scratcher. You think so? No. I'm saying you shouldn't be worried.
Oh, okay. You shouldn't be worried. It's not going to be the consistency that you receive with him. But I'm sure you're just. I was let down. I'm not even a Devonte Adams owner. I was let down because I was just, I thought Devonte Adams was just going to cook this Cardinals secondary, and yeah, they didn't. Like, he didn't, and so a little strange. Don't be worried.
Very strange.
It's just, I don't know. Just a little strange here.
Just let down.
Yeah, another receiver that maybe let us down a little bit. Actually, a couple of receivers that let us down a little bit, both with just 10.8 fantasy points on the week. But it was Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
So as a Justin Jefferson owner, as someone who loved him the most out of any fantasy player, I'm not worried. I think they have to get Dalvin Cook more involved because Dalvin Cook only had 6 carries last night. And 12 targets. For Justin Jefferson, okay, we're fine. Darius Slay dominated the defense. Darius Slay had 2 interceptions.
Shut him down.
It was fantastic. Crazy. Kirk Cousins in prime time does not do well.
Water.
Great example.
Dookie water. Yeah.
I think this is a Kirk Cousins in primetime issue, but the Jamar Chase, I'm more worried about that because I'm just kind of worried about the Bengals offense. If I'm going to be honest, like, oh no.
Yeah.
Do we have a crisis on our hands, dude?
I think we might, dude. I don't know. Lost to the Cooper Rush led Cowboys. Again, Dallas is a good defense. But sure. I was expecting a little more. And I think, I talked my talk about T. Higgins in the preseason. And I think a lot of Jamar Chase owners are going to realize pretty quickly that, we're going to get a lot more of these 10, 11, 12-point weeks than we are going to get these 40-point weeks. Like, his floor is probably around this area right here.
Could be.
He still had 9 targets. Like, you can't be disappointed with 9 targets for a receiver, especially with Jamar Chase's caliber. But T. Higgins scored the touchdown.
That's right.
And I don't know. I don't have the exact. Target count for T. Higgins, but I know that I believe it was at least within just a couple of Jamar
T. Higgins
Chase
had 10.
there. So T. Higgins got more targets than Jamar Chase did. Just by 1, but still, it's Joe Burrow looks at both these guys equally. And so While Jamar may have more of the downfield threat upside, I think, we're going to see a decent split, which is why I had both these guys inside my top 10 fantasy wide receivers. I think they both have that potential there just by getting there in kind of different ways. So besides that, another guy that, again, not a huge letdown or not worried, but just after such an incredible week one, I think we thought we were going to see a little bit more from Saquon Barkley this week.
Dang it!
As a Saquon owner, Wes.
No!
I know you're hurting a little bit. Guys, don't be, Wes, I'm speaking directly to you, man.
Okay.
Don't be worried. It's all good. He had 21 carries. I'm
not worried at
and
all.
4 targets. You shouldn't
Other
be.
Saquon owners should not be worried at all. The only thing I'm worried about is if you still own a Giants wide receiver on your team.
Stop.
That is bad news.
Last guy here is going to be Cordell Patterson. We saw him explode in week 1. Week 2, just 4.1 fantasy points, only had 10 carries. He actually had the same amount of carries as rookie Tyler Algier. That's a guy you should be looking for on your waiver wire, just to put that out there, because Tyler Algier made more of his 10 carries than Cordell Patterson did, and Cordell Patterson was a non-factor in the passing game.
Yeah,
very those guys that let us down.
Algier ended up getting 31% of the snaps, and I liked him a lot in preseason, and I knew he wasn't going to see action right away because of Cordell Patterson, but maybe that's going to creep up. Maybe Tyler Algier might end up seeing a few more touchdowns.
I took him in the last round of a draft this season just because I was counting on, potentially this backfield is probably one of the more uncertain backfields. It's Cordell Patterson, it's Damian Williams, and it's this rookie. And kind of the same thoughts I had on Dameon Pierce of maybe this guy, gets the job because of the guys around him aren't that good. I think we could be looking at that. So definitely a name to look for on the waiver wire, Tyler Algier. I'm sick of being let down, Wes. Let's move on. It's fluke or for real. Let's look at some guys from week 2. Wes, Garrett Wilson, New York Jets rookie wide receiver. 14 targets, 8 catches, 102 yards, and 2 touchdowns, 30 fantasy points. Fluke or for real?
I say for real.
I
say for real. And it's because this guy in the game did a lot, not just for fantasy, not because he ended up getting touchdowns and it's, who started this guy, that kind of joke. No, this guy had an incredible sideline catch, got hurt, and went back in the game and helped lead Joe Flacco to an incredible comeback and got the game-winning touchdown. 14 targets. That's for real.
Crazy. Yeah. I think it's for real as well. My concern with Garrett Wilson is that when Zach Wilson comes back, that's the only thing that I'm a little worried about. As long as Joe Flacco's playing, I think Garrett Wilson belongs in lineups. And I can't believe that is a sentence I just said in 2022. But that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
One last thing to note on this. Who were they looking at for the game-winning touchdown? Who were they looking for? It was Garrett Wilson. He got that game-winning touchdown. He means something to this team. 10th overall pick in the NFL draft. He's a beast. Lock him into lineups. I believe it was one of their DBs said he's got a little bit of JJ in him, a little bit of J Jettas in him. So we'll see if he's got a little bit of that breakout there.
Nelson 3 times as much as J Jettas.
Yeah. Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver for the New England Patriots. 6 targets, 6 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown where he absolutely mossed a Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver. 23 fantasy points. What do we think, Wes? Is it a fluke or is it for real?
I think that's a fluke.
Me too.
That came half of that stat. Everything you just said, half of that was from that incredible catch. And Mac Jones is not going to be a quarterback. He's still not a quarterback to me that is going to give me a fantasy value in the wide receiver position for New England. So until Mac Jones is consistently throwing like 275 yards, I'm not buying any of these breakout games for Patriots.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. Let's look at a name in the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver room. That's Noah Brown. 5 targets, 5 catches, 91 yards and a touchdown, 20.1 fantasy points. Fluke or for real, Wes?
I'm gonna say fluke. I think this can happen again, possibly, but I'm gonna say fluke because I don't know what to make of the Cowboys offense.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple. I don't know what to do about any of them.
Yeah. I agree. I think CeeDee Lamb saw his targets. CeeDee Lamb got 11 targets again.
At 15 points, CeeDee Lamb did.
Yeah. And so not sure what's going to happen in this Dallas Cowboys offense. I do think this next guy might be a little more involved, though, and maybe a little bit of more of a beneficiary from Dak Prescott being out. And that's Tony Pollard, Wes. 9 carries, 43 yards, and a touchdown. He had 7 targets in the game, 4 catches for 55 yards, 19.8 fantasy points. Wes, fluke or for real?
You know, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say this is for real with heavy caution, because I think he will do this plenty of times. But I think he will also do the complete opposite just as many times.
Yeah.
Because of what he has done in each of the years he has been fantasy relevant. He is flex at best because he either does this 20-point performance or he's getting 3 or 4 points. He is boom or bust, and it's not even that big of a boom. From the years that I have drafted him personally, I was high going into this season for Tony Pollard. I think, again, this is what he does. So I say for real. I think he will do this again, but there is heavy caution behind that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely for real while Cooper Rush is the quarterback. I think we both thought Dalton Schultz might be that safety net for him, for Cooper Rush in this offense.
Got hurt.
And then he got hurt, which is a friggin' bummer, dude, because I'm a Schultz owner, and that sucked.
Yeah.
But Tony Pollard, 7 targets for a running back is very, very good. He had that long play down the sideline where he came up just short. I'm very glad Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore rewarded him for that effort and got him into the end zone.
Yeah.
At the end of that drive. Really good to see there. One more here for the good side of Fluke for real, Wes. It's Drake London. It's Drake London. He's got 12 targets, 8 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. He had 24.6 fantasy points. I just went ahead, committed to that one. So
I'm so grateful. I think everyone is.
Wes, you think this guy's a fluke for real?
You know, I'm going to say for real. Not that he's going to continue to get 20 points or even maybe, I think it's going to be closer to 10 to 15. But you know what? As long as Kyle Pitts is not involved, Drake London is the guy. 12 targets, 8 catches, 86 yards, just as you said. Until they are like trying to get Kyle Pitts 15 targets, Drake London is the better pass catcher right now for the Atlanta Falcons. I'll say it.
I agree.
Golly.
I think you're spot on, Master Will. Anyways.
Wow.
No problem. Cool. Anyways, let's move on here. We're going to talk about some of the bad guys, Wes. Joe Burrow. Oh, boy, Joey B. 16.
2 weeks in a row.
I don't understand. They made the team better on paper, and they look worse than they played at all last year. It doesn't make sense to me. But Joe Burrow, not a huge letdown, but still, for where you drafted him at, 16.56 fantasy points, fluke for real.
The fact that I'm hesitating should just make me say for real.
Should the hesitation makes you say for real?
The hesitation, I can't make myself say that's for real. It's Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
But I'm hesitating.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think I don't know, for real. I think maybe this is how it's going to be for weeks. I don't know if it's for the season, but listen, I have Joe Burrow. Now I've got Tua as his backup. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to start Tua over Joe Burrow next week. I know it's the Bills, but I don't like what I'm seeing from Joey B. Look, he's being nicknamed Joe Burrow in 2. I mean,
oh God,
it's not looking good in Cincy.
Yeah, I was hearing someone do a little bit of analysis on this Bengals team. I'll go over this real quick. They made the O-line better. Joe Burrow is still Joe Burrow. Like he's a guy who played awesome and led his team to the Super Bowl last year. Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is still T. Higgins. Joe Mixon's still Joe Mixon. Like, it's like, what shift needs to be made for this team to be successful? They don't have the salary cap space to bolster an offensive line even more. So does someone get traded? Does somebody move around? Like, what happens here? And the only thing I can think is it Zach Taylor? Like, is Zach Taylor the thing that needs to change? Like a guy who just, a coach that just took a team to a Super Bowl. It'd be crazy to see, a change happen there. But I just don't know what's going on with this Bengals team. And it's real confusing. And I'm glad that T. Higgins is doing well and that Joe Mixon's doing okay and Jamar Chase will have his weeks, but it's really confusing to see what's going on here. Another guy I'm a little confused about and
it's okay.
and having a tough time with, because this is a guy that I harped about for the entire offseason. Is the GOAT. It's Tom Brady, 9.4 fantasy points, just only 190 yards and a touchdown this past week. Touchdown thrown to Brashad Perriman. Enjoy that fancy name. Whatever, dude. Fluke. I don't know. Whatever. Fluke for real, Wes. Shut me up.
I'm going to say Fluke. I'm going to say he's going to come back.
I want to say that too.
There's so many injuries in the wide receiver core. And you know what? Brady has still thrown long passes. So it's not necessarily the age is catching up as quickly as it may feel like it is. He's still throwing it deep. And they haven't had a full roster. So right now, I'm still willing to bet that's a fluke. He'll be back.
I think so too, and I'm hoping for my sake, being a Brady owner in multiple leagues, that it is, and a Brady and Mike Evans stack owner that it is. What I'll say is I think they haven't played easy defenses over the first 2 weeks. The Cowboys defense is good. We just saw them make Joe Burrow, the guy we just talked about, 199 yards and touchdown. I think the Saints defense is good. I think, Mariota got the best of them for a little bit. They pretty much shut him down in the second half after week one. And so Brady hasn't played necessarily easy defenses yet this year. I believe he's got the Packers. Does Tom Brady have the Packers this week on football time? I'm going to just do a double check here real quick. Tom Brady has the Packers on Sunday. Who knows what that game's going to be like? Two offenses that used to be explosive and now, what's going on? Like, who knows? It's going to be a very interesting game to watch there. I think it's a fluke. I think he does bounce back from this. But let's move on here to a couple of running backs. Dameon Pierce, just 8.7 fantasy points. Fluker for real, Wes. I'm going to make myself say for real. Yeah. Because this is just not the kind of Texas offense that is they're not productive. They are not an offensive force. So until that changes, Dameon Pierce is going to rest on my bench. Yeah. Encouraging to see nearly 5 yards a carry, but it's just this offense. I said earlier, I thought it might be a little bit like a James Robinson rookie type season. Bad offense, but still gets a ton of work and gets the goal line work and all that sort of stuff. I'm not really sure about Dameon Pierce. Like you said, I think he remains on benches for right now. Let's go ahead to Melvin Gordon here with 6.3 fantasy points on 10 carries for 47 yards and 1 catch for 6 yards. Wes, fluke or for real? For real. Javonte Williams saw 65% of the snaps. Yeah. This is going to keep getting worse for Melvin Gordon owners. And I think that he will still get touchdowns. He will still get goal line work. But this is very clearly going to become Javonte Williams' backfield in the next week or two. Javonte Williams didn't have a crazy good week, but he is the better back, and the Broncos know it. Yeah, I think the Broncos know it. I think fantasy owners know it. I think Melvin Gordon knows it. I still think Melvin Gordon belongs on rosters. I still think he has. Oh, I think so. Yeah. I think he has flex appeal, to be honest. If I think my flex play this week got less than 6.3 fantasy points, so I would have loved to have him on my lineup if I had him. And 10 carries. I don't think you can turn your head away from 10 carries. When guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire are getting like 8 carries and making a lot out of them, I think there's a chance Melvin Gordon could still do some really good stuff and still have his weeks there. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a, maybe less of a let's flex him every week and see, and more of a hold on to him and don't be worried on a running back's bye week, because if you get the right week for Melvin Gordon, I still think he can, be in that 15-point range. Got the goal line work in Seattle. They both did. They both fumbled. We'll see what happens here. This Broncos offense is a little bit confusing. Let's move on to a guy that we just talked about a little bit in reference to Drake London. Mm-hmm. It's going to be Kyle Pitts, 3.9 fantasy points. Wes, fluke or for real?
Let me put it this way. Kyle Pitts will be on my bench when he has his first good game. For real.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. I mean, are they putting 16 guys to cover Kyle Pitts? Like, I don't get it. Like, he's supposed to be, he was the prospect from last year.
Yeah.
He could be the greatest tight end in history. I know that is a ridiculous pressure to put on someone, but like, what are we doing here? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's make something happen.
Yeah. Number 4 overall pick. He's a freaking unicorn, dude. Like, he's so athletic. He's so good at football. He's so fast. And Arthur Smith coming to the media and saying, we're not playing fantasy football. We're trying to win games. That's cool. You're not winning games either. And maybe it's because you're not putting the football into Kyle Pitts' hands. Do that, Arthur Smith, please.
Yeah.
Because it will help. One, I know the NFL football is bigger than fantasy football. I get it, but it'll help you and it'll help fantasy owners. So put the ball into Kyle Pitts' hands. You say you're trying to win games. No, you're not. You're not giving your number 4 overall pick the opportunity and the targets and just the chance to shine.
Go off, Noah.
Just give him the ball. It's just ridiculous. Like, you're a poverty franchise, and you just traded away the best quarterback you probably have in franchise history, maybe besides Michael Vick when he played on the Falcons. What are you doing? You're saying you're trying to win games, and you're not. You're putting the ball into the hands of Olave Zacchaeus or whatever his name is. I don't get it. Like, give Kyle Pitts the football. It doesn't make any sense if you're trying to win football games to not give the most athletic and best player on your offense the football.
Can we make that go viral? I want your rant to get to Georgia.
I hope so.
That was awesome.
I hope he sees it. I don't get it. If you want to win football games, give Kyle Pitts the football. My goodness. Yeah, that's for real. Okay, that's for real until Arthur Smith does something. DK Metcalf, 7.5 points. Wes, fluke or for real?
Did someone point out that wide receivers that sign contracts for 3 years with their current team will have a 76% chance to do worse the next season? And did they say that they would do 26% worse the next season? Someone did.
I think so.
We did. We said that. We said that.
Yeah, we did.
Of course it's for real. Because it's math.
Them's the maths, baby.
Next.
Next. There's the math. Next. Dalvin Cook. Man, 7.6 fantasy points. Fluke or for real? For now or for the season? I don't know. Fluke or for real, Wes?
I'm frustrated as a Dalvin Cook owner, but I still know this is a fluke. I know that they understand they cannot run the game through Justin Jefferson. Darius Slay proved that last night. So you have to get Dalvin Cook the ball. You have to get him carries. He can't have almost as many catches as he does carries for your running back, and it's Dalvin Cook. No, that's a fluke. They know better than that. Come on, Kevin. You know better than that.
I agree. Let's move on to the last one here. Derrick Henry, 8.5 fantasy points. Wes, fluke or for real?
I teased it when we were talking about the Bills and how great they did. I just wonder if without A.J. Brown, are we going to get the King Henry 2K yards that we expect? I don't know. For now, I'm going to keep saying that's a fluke. He's going to come back, but I don't know if I don't know how long it'll be before we see a 30-point performance from him.
I'm going to say it's for real.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to say it's for real. I think he's going to land around this 10-point mark.
Oh my god.
More than half the season. And he's going to have his 30-point games, and those will be fine. And he'll have 15-point games, and those will be fine. But I really think this is for real. I think these defenses know. You said it. They had like these Tannehill had like 130 or 40 yards or something like that passing. They don't have anyone to spread the ball around to. And I just don't, it's not, Dontrell Hilliard didn't play. He's not the reason they lost 41-7. Like, that's not the reason why that happened. Well, he had 2 touchdowns last week. That's great. They're playing the Giants. The Giants are dookie, even though they're 2-0.
They're undefeated.
Press on, Brian Dable. I love Brian Dable. I love the Giants this year, man. But yeah, I'm going to say it's for real. And Derrick Henry owners need to beware. And I think whenever he has his big pop off game, I think you sell him. Because I think that's when you get the best value for him.
Gosh,
it's tough, but I mean, it's like let's play a little game here real quick, Wes. Just guys here that we've just talked about and hyped up or let down. We go back and we're redrafting, and you're there at your pick, and Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry are both on the board. Who are you taking?
Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
Didn't even think about it, honestly.
Yeah, we're there, and Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley are there. Who are you taking?
I think I would.
I'm taking Saquon Barkley.
I think I would take Saquon.
I'm taking Saquon Barkley. You're there, and Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry are there.
Chubb.
Who are you taking? Nick Chubb. Exactly. You're there, and Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry are there. Who are you taking?
You make a good point, Noah.
I think it's for real. I think these defenses are just going to stack the box.
Yikes.
Derrick Henry is going to disappoint and be a really, really big letdown.
We saw that last night, actually. The Bills swarmed Derrick Henry.
He had 25 yards on 13 carries. That's less than 2.5 yards per carry.
It's so sad to hear.
It's really sad to hear. It's just, I think a lot, everyone was kind of sharing that stat. It's like no 27-plus-year-old running back has finished inside the top 10 or the top 5 or whatever it is. And I think we all surely were like, well, that's not going to happen. Derrick Henry's here. Like, that's not happening again. That's not the case. The Titans look bad, man. The Titans look bad. They lost to the Giants. They got swamped by the Bills.
Wow.
Derrick Henry looks bad. I think, like I said, once
are you telling me we lost the Queen and the King in the same month?
Let's save the Queen. Yeah, we did, Wes. We did. Yeah, that happened.
No.
Anyways, let's go ahead and move on here. Like I said, Derrick Henry, whenever he'll have that week. Don't worry, he'll have that week. But I'm not gonna say to you, when that week comes, be relieved that he's back. I'm going to say when that week comes, be relieved, because now you can sell high on Derrick Henry and sell high on Derrick Henry whenever you can.
I think it's worth taking the time to get through that, because we got to get through the rest of the show. But I think you make a really good point, Noah.
Yeah, I think so. Derrick Henry is a sell high. Let's jump into real quick our buy low, sell high segment. We're going to give you one guy we think you should get them when they're down or sell them while they're hot. Let's start with sell high. Wes, who are you selling high right now?
Okay. I wanted to hear your genuine first blush response to this. Sell Rashad Bateman. Because let me make my case.
Sure.
Okay. He's on fire right now. Obviously, that's why he's in the sell high category. He was your 9th or 10th round pick in fantasy.
Yeah.
You probably have really good receivers. He could very well be your 4th wide receiver on your roster. You can sell him. Now, you could keep him and sell someone else.
Yeah.
But you know that the value you have with Rashad Bateman, back-to-back 20-point performances, if you're weak in the running back position, you can get someone with Bateman. That's my case. What do you think, Noah? Do you agree?
I agree with your logic.
He's my guy.
I agree with your logic. I'm still not selling him though, because we saw the flash there, and I think that is what's to come. I think he looks very good. He looks quick. He looks faster than he did last season. He is a guy that I believe a lot in. And I believe it was 7 targets that he saw this week, which was more than last week. I think last week he only saw 4 targets. He saw 7 targets this week, caught 4 of them for 108 and a touchdown. I think I'm not going to sell high on him yet, but I agree with your logic. But I think if you've got a guy, if you took Bateman and you're also a CD Lamb owner, I think I'd rather sell CD Lamb after a week like this where he put up 15. Sure. Where people might be thinking he's back, and which I don't know if I believe that, but the logic is there to sell. The logic is there to sell Rashad Bateman. I just have strong belief in him for the rest of the season, and so I would keep him there and keep him in the lineup.
I do too. You could be in a situation where your starting running backs are Derrick Henry and, I don't know, let's say it's Travis Cam Etienne. Akers or Travis Etienne or Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out there. That's why I'm saying Rashad Bateman, you can get a lot of capital back and still be pretty good in your receiver category.
Yeah. I think you can get a solid RB2 probably for Rashad Bateman right now for a guy that you took in like the 9th round.
Yeah, but I also believe he will do great. So with that being said, Noah, who's your sell high right now heading into week 3?
Yeah, my sell high is going to be Jahan Dotson, wide receiver for the Washington Commanders. Dotson's been awesome. He's been really awesome to watch play. But I think he's definitely a sell high. I think you need to be reaching out to the people in your league who own DK Metcalf, who own DJ Moore, who own Deontay Johnson, and see if you can make a trade here. He's looked, Dotson's looked really good, 2 straight weeks of 18 fantasy points. And while that whole offense really does look fantasy friendly, scoring a touchdown on 43% of your catches to start the year is pretty unsustainable. I traded Dotson after week 1 for a guy that I thought had high upside who didn't play well in week 1. I traded Dotson for Brandon Ayuk in week 1. We'll see what happens with Ayuk with this San Francisco quarterback situation with Jimmy G coming back, but I would suggest you do the same here. He may be good, but I don't see the points keeping up for him like they are right now. And I think right now is the peak time to sell because you can convince your league mates, dude's had 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks. Come on, he's a beast. Like whatever. I would sell high under Jahan Dotson right now.
I feel the same. I think if you have a wide receiver that no one's heard of, essentially in the fantasy community, scoring 3 touchdowns, all heads turn. And, this is all about just trying to get good capital and taking advantage of who's hot. And I mean, again, kind of similar to Bateman, but even more so for a guy that you probably didn't even draft unless you're Noah, because Noah knew that it was going to pan out in a way. Then you're fine in wide receivers. You don't need him on your team because you have great wide receivers. So sell him. Sell him when he's got 3 touchdowns to his name.
I would sell. Wes, who right now are you buying low on?
Okay. I am going to buy Ezekiel Elliott. There are some low running back stats right now. We just talked about Derrick Henry. We talked about Dalvin Cook. Najee Harris has been off to a rough start. But here's the thing. Those guys are first-round picks. So even though they're doing bad, you cannot get them for good value. You have to give up someone great, even though Ezekiel Elliott has like 10 points total for the season, you can still get him right now because there's a lot of confusion for the Cowboys offense and Tony Pollard just went off. So Ezekiel Elliott owners are low and he was 3rd, 4th round pick. They have other good running backs. I think you can take advantage of this and at least you have a solid back for a bye week or worst case, an injury in your lineup. And in case he does go off, there you go. If Dak comes back and Zeke is if Zeke is getting fed, wonderful. But what I can trade to get Ezekiel, the guys that I need to use to trade Ezekiel Elliott, I could never get Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris. They're still way too expensive despite how low their season has been so far. So I agree. I go for Zeke.
I like it. I think Zeke is a great buy low option right now. For all the reasons that you said, Wes.
Thank you. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Who's your buy low?
My buy low. Oh boy. All right. If you're driving a car right now, you might want to pull over because I'm afraid you're going to have a rash reaction to this. I'm going to pump the brakes here for a little bit and tell you guys to buy low on running back for the Los Angeles Rams, Cam Akers. I know. I know. Week 1 was bad. Capital B, capital A, capital D, capital bad. In bold, underlined, in Comic Sans, it was bad. Okay. But week 2 was like a complete shift for the opportunities that Cam Akers saw. He went from 3 opportunities in week 1 to 18 opportunities in week 2 versus his running mate, Darrell Henderson, who had only 10 opportunities in this game. Darrell Henderson did get in and score the touchdown. So that is why Cam Akers owners are still going to be disappointed in Cam Akers. Take advantage. I am bought in on Cam Akers as a buy low because while things look better, he still only put up those 8.2 fantasy points. And like I said, like those Cam Akers owners aren't happy. They're not happy with that, especially for where they drafted him at. I honestly think you can get Cam Akers for really, really cheap right now. And he's a guy who just got the majority of the opportunities on one of the best offenses in the NFL as a running back. And so I am bought in on Cam Akers as a buy low right now. And if you're a Cam Akers owner, I think it's worth holding on to, but also if you don't, then sell them for cheap because other people will be happy. Yay.
I think this is why Fourth and Troll Fantasy is great, because that is the kind of expert advice that I don't think people realize is really good. I'm backing you up. You can get a starting running back. I'm going to be honest with you. I almost said Darrell Henderson as a sell high, but he just doesn't have enough points for me to feel like that was worth selling high. And I was actually more interested in talking about Rashad Bateman because of where he was drafted. But Cam Akers, I think you make a really good point. I think you can, I mean, I don't know if it's going to pan out, but I sent a trade for Isaiah. I sent Isaiah Pacheco to get Cam Akers. He hasn't declined it. It's been 2 days. Wow. I mean, I don't think that'll work out, but
you can try and get these guys. You can send guys like, I'm trying to think of like somebody you could try and send. You could try and send like, I don't know, like, I know I'm having trouble here. Who's a running back that's like disappointed? It wasn't highly drafted. You could probably, like, if you're a Kenneth Gainwell owner, you could probably send Kenneth Gainwell and get Cam Akers in return. So I think Cam Akers is a great option for a buy low right now.
Love it.
I think he has a chance to be really good. Wes, I know these people love listening to us, but let's fly through here, man, because we got a little bit of things to cover just here in this last bit of this episode. Let's get into the waiver wire add of the week. Wes, who should we be adding?
Well, I would love to be super cool and say that it's Tua, but it's not. Tua is not my waiver wire add of the week because you probably don't need a quarterback. You probably need a tight end. And it's because the tight ends right now look rough. It's very difficult for anyone to feel like, oh, you know what? I'm going to hit 10 points in each position. No, nobody's thinking that unless you have Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce. You're not feeling good. So here's my option for you. I'm gonna audition Evan Ingram from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, that's back-to-back Jags. All right. I'm gonna do it every week until you have the entire Jacksonville Jaguars offense on your roster. No, it just happens to be that way. But the reason for Evan Ingram is because Trevor Lawrence is throwing that football around a lot, and he's throwing it around to a lot of different players. Now, looking at how this week went, how week 2 went, you could look at Tyler Higbee, but Cooper Kupp is still the owner of the Los Angeles Rams offense. So Higbee is not guaranteed for me to get solid production week to week. You could look at Logan Thomas, who had a touchdown, and he was elite once. Maybe he's coming back. No, because it's Curtis Samuel now. And maybe it's Jahan Dotson for a little bit longer. And Terry McLaurin is still there. Antonio Gibson still catches the ball. It's a similar situation when I say that with Jacksonville, but here's the thing. Evan Ingram led the targets this week. He led the targets. Despite Christian Kirk having 2 touchdowns, Evan Ingram led the team in targets. And if you need a tight end, go get this guy, because if this is the team that shuts out the Colts, I think this is an offense we can count on to get a pretty good floor going forward. So for me, my waiver wire out of the week is Evan Ingram.
I love it. I love it a lot. I am a Dalton Schultz owner, and I am a little concerned he might miss a little time. I personally am going to be targeting Evan Ingram on the waiver wire. And to any of my league mates who think they're going to get him before me, too bad. I'm 0-2, and I've scored less than 100 points each week so far. So I'm getting them. Suck it.
Waiver wire one.
Waiver wire one. Let's go.
All right, tell me your other waiver wire ad for the week.
My waiver wire ad of the week. We're going to double up here, Wes. I'm going double Commanders. And it's going to be Carson Wentz. He was a big name in waivers last week. Wow. But I landed my must add last week on Wentz's teammate, Curtis Samuel, 22.9 fantasy points again. If you did miss that, he's a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy right now. Hope you listen to me, and I hope you listen this week. Wentz earns my top waiver add spot this week because he's just playing awesome. He's playing awesome.
Yeah, man.
It's not pretty, but he's found his second straight week of 27 plus fantasy points, 300 plus passing yards, and 3+ touchdowns. If you lost Dak Prescott, if you lost Trey Lance, if you took your shot on a guy like Stafford and it's not paying off so far, if you took a chance waiting on a quarterback and took Brady like I did, Wentz needs to be your top priority this week. I'm not benching Brady yet. But I do want to have that security of feeling like, okay, I've got a guy that I think is going to be good. Wentz deserves to be rostered. He's only rostered in just over 50% of ESPN fantasy leagues. Commanders offense looks good, and when they get rolling, I am getting excited about the Commanders offense. I like Carson Wentz this week. I think he should be a top priority waiver add for you.
What a strong backup for a roster, I think. Carson Wentz having 7 touchdowns the first 2 weeks. I think he has 300 yards and plus in each of those games.
He does,
I'm not mistaken.
310 plus, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to throw some picks because that's what Carson Wentz will do. But, I mean, it's better than Matthew Stafford has done.
Yeah.
Better than Brady's done so far. So, yeah, I ship that.
Ship it, Wes. Ship it. Let's lastly here real quick. Let's break down and do a little bit of a preview for a divisional matchup in the AFC North. It's Thursday Night Football, baby. And it's the Steelers at the Browns. We're going to go through our must starts, risky starts, and don't starts. Wes, kick us off with your must start.
Well, when Noah and I were discussing our must starts and risky starts so that we don't try to overlap, Noah, I literally took Noah's. I won't say it because you're about to say it, but I was like, oh, it's going to be this guy. Noah's like, yeah, I just said that. And I was like, oh, I got to find someone else then.
Oops.
But I don't think this guy, I'm not trying to undersell this guy, but I'm going to make a case here for Deontay Johnson as a must start. Mm-hmm. The Browns offense, I feel like there is not really, I mean, of course, start Nick Chubb. Yeah, obviously. But like now that we're looking at some of these other players, Deontay Johnson, I think right now, ironically, even though Noah, you said that he is going to be your bust for this season because he wasn't going to get hyper targeted like Ben Roethlisberger did to him last year. Yeah. Right now, he's kind of getting hyper targeted like he did last year with Ben Roethlisberger because he has 22 targets, which is a lot. Okay. That's tied for 8th right now in the league. It's only 2 weeks in, so it's not a lot to talk about. But second in targets right now is Chase Claypool with 12.
Yeah.
So Deontay Johnson, 22 targets, Chase Claypool, 12 targets. And the yards is not even close. Deontay Johnson has 112 yards. Chase Claypool is second with 44. So it's the ball is getting funneled to Deontay Johnson still. And here's something very interesting is that Mitch Trubisky has the fewest yards per attempt right now. He has 5.1 yards per completion. So it's not like there's a chance someone else is going to have this huge touchdown. No, he's just trying to get like these short yardage gains. So for me, I'm thinking flex. I'm thinking Deontay Johnson is probably still a flex option. I think you can start him. And it's a rivalry. Yeah. These teams hate each other. So,
yeah,
I say start Deontay Johnson. Do it. I believe for this week, Thursday night, go for it.
I can't blame you. Just because he has been getting those targets. Like he like he was with Ben Roethlisberger. They're not the exact same ones. Like you said, they're very short. He is not making much out of these double-digit targets. He's got, I think he's not gone over 14 fantasy points yet so far over these first 2 weeks. But I can't blame you for a guy that is getting that many targets and a rivalry game on primetime. I think there's a good chance he does well there. My must start is going to be his teammate, though, that's living over near the offensive lineman a little bit more, and that's going to be Pat Freiermuth. Patty Fry, man, he's been everything you want to see from the tight end spot in the first 2 weeks. 7+ targets in each game so far. 12+ fantasy points in every game. In both games so far this season, he's had at least 4 catches with either 75 yards or a touchdown in both of those games. Browns have allowed 40+ yards to tight ends in each of these first 2 weeks of the season. And I think Freiermuth has become the safety net for Mitch Trubisky. And I expect that to continue with Myles Garrett coming in hot and pressuring Trubisky all night long. Tight end is a pretty shallow position right now, but I'm starting Freiermuth with confidence this week, and I think you can just lock him in.
Excellent. I mean, as I already said, like Noah texted is like, so my must start is going to be Pat Freiermuth. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, my must start is going to be Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, and I was like, hey, no, get your own guy.
Yeah.
So,
I was like, do we want it? We can double up for emphasis. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah.
No, I still think Deontay Johnson is going to be a successful start, but Pat Freiermuth, especially as I just talked about with the tight end position, I think Freiermuth is golden.
Yeah, I agree. Wes, who are you getting risky with this Thursday night?
So when we do these risky starts, we generally tend to sway one way, as in risky, hey, give it a shot, or risky, watch out. And I honestly have to say it's a caution against starting Najee Harris. And this is so weird because this is the guy that was going to be my RB2 heading into the season. When I said that, I said Najee Harris was going to do better than his stinky poopy diaper offensive line because I thought his talent was going to outweigh that. Yeah. Turns out that's not really the case.
No.
That offensive line is outweighing or doing worse than Najee Harris's talent is. And for a guy that's got 8 points in back-to-back weeks, and he barely got you any points in week 1 because he fell into the end zone with that receiving touchdown. He had a 3-yard catch for a touchdown. So I think the Browns are going to say, yeah, you know what? Fine. Beat us through the air, Mitch. And
yeah,
I mean, what are you going to do? You're not going to start Najee Harris. I mean, who's going to bench Najee? I mean, but I don't know, man. I don't like the way that Najee's season is going, and I don't like the way the Browns defense is going to try to lock down Najee.
Yeah, I agree. I think that SPDPO line. That's
just acronym that.
Stinky poopy diaper, but in case anyone missed that, SPDB line is going to be having some trouble against Myles Garrett, and I think I agree with you. I am erring on the side of get ready for disappointment and starting Najee Harris.
Yeah.
For my risky start, I actually lean the other way, Wes. I lean towards, I think this guy does well, but the pedigree of this defense could prove otherwise. But my risky start for this week is going to be Nick Chubb, running back for the Cleveland Browns, my stud from last week. 32.3 fantasy points, found the end zone 3 times. Again, was better in the passing game than Kareem Hunt. He looked awesome. The talent is there, no doubt about it. But the Steelers defense, even without TJ Watt, is still going to be a force to be reckoned with. Last week, however, they did let Damian Harris go for 71 yards and a touchdown. So I do lean more on the positive side of this. As I said, he is my risky start due to just how good this defense can be. But and really just because I'm trying to temper expectations after such a massive week for Nick Chubb. But it's risky just in the sense that he could get shut down, but I do think he still finds success in this game, especially with how the Browns have found success in their football games. Wes, who are you not even thinking about? Don't start him. Who is it?
It's so funny that we just praised the Browns defense because I don't think you should start the Browns defense.
Mm.
I don't believe that a Browns team that just let the Jets score 14 points in like 8 seconds for a 31-30 final is the defense you want to stream against a division rival. There are so many really good options for defense this week. If you watch last night's game, I'm definitely going to start the Eagles defense against Carson Wentz. I mean, sure, Carson Wentz can still get the 3 touchdowns we talked about, but he's going to throw a lot of picks. I'm going to start the Chiefs defense against the Colts. Maybe. I just looking at, there's some other options here. Maybe the Cardinals defense will dominate against the Rams. Who knows? There are better defenses to start. And I get that there are some really good players on that Browns team, but I don't think rush defense does not turn into fantasy value. So you don't get points for stopping the run. You get points for turnovers, and they are not the turnover machine that I think we think they will be. So for me, surprisingly, I'm going to say start someone else. Start a different defense than the Browns for this week.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I agree with you. You make a lot of good points. I was super high on this Browns defense as a team, as a defense to draft in fantasy because of how good their defense should be playing. They haven't really been playing that great so far. In week 1, they played fairly well. It's a little bit hit or miss for me, but I can see it going either way for this Browns defense on prime time this Thursday night. I am going to pretty much just make you all upset and disappointed because we just talked about how great this guy was this past week, but I am not starting Amari Cooper this week. Okay. He shocked me in week 2. I'll admit it. I do not have the most love for Amari Cooper. He burned me last year, so I'm already not a huge believer, but he saw 10 targets for 9 receptions, 101 yards and a touchdown after a week 1 game where he only saw 6 targets for 3 catches for 17 yards. So we could be looking at a bit of a roller coaster here. This Steelers secondary, led by Minka Fitzpatrick, who's been a ball hawk through the first 2 weeks, has been fairly shut down when it comes to allowing big receiver games. So far, we talk about Nelson Aguilar. He had the one big play, and that was it for him when it came down to that. Same thing with Robbie. That was the Browns defense that allowed Robbie season, by the way, Robbie Anderson to go for 75-yard touchdown. I don't have any shares of Amari Cooper this year, but I'm going to advise heavily to leave him on benches for Thursday night. I do not think he does very good things in fantasy football this week.
I think just for the final comment, thanks so much, everyone, for listening. This is a long episode, but we love football. We love talking about it. I think just this will be a good test to see if Amari Cooper is going to be FLUKE for real. With a division rival, after coming off a strong game, 100 yards, 101 yards, I believe. I think this is a real good test. And I think, Noah, you're going to say he's a fluke heading into this week. I think this will prove it right here against Thursday night against the Browns or against the Steelers. I forget what team he's on.
It most certainly will. That is going to be all the time we have for this episode. Thank you so much for sticking around. Wherever you are listening, we'd appreciate it if you give this episode 5 stars and write something funny in the review so we can give you a shout out next time. We're on social media everywhere at 4th and Troll and on Facebook at 4th and Troll Fantasy. Look for our mascot, Teddy the Troll, and make him smile by giving us a follow and joining us next time every Tuesday and Friday. I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy.